There's a moment most people don't think about until it's too late. It's not when you sign up for a service. It's not when you start using it. It's when you try to leave. And suddenly, what seemed simple becomes complicated. You can't find the cancel button. Your data is hard to export. Your workflow depends on the product. Or worse, everything you've built is locked inside it. This isn't accidental. In fact, for many companies, making it hard to leave is not a flaw. It's a strategy, a hidden one, because in today's business environment, keeping a customer is often more valuable than getting a new one. And the easiest way to keep a customer is not always to make them happier. It's to make leaving harder. This is where the concept of lock-in comes in. Lock-in is when a product becomes so embedded in your life, your work, or your habits that switching away feels costly. Not just financially, but mentally and operationally. And modern businesses are designing for this from the start. Think about how this works in practice. At first, everything feels easy. Signing up is quick. Getting started is simple. The product is intuitive. You're encouraged to move your data, your files, your preferences into the system. And that's the key moment. Because the more you put into a system, the more dependent you become on it. Over time, your data grows. Your habits form. Your processes adapt around that product. It becomes part of your routine. And then one day, if you consider leaving, you realize something. You're not just leaving a product. You're leaving everything connected to it. This is where switching costs come into play. Switching costs are not always about money. In many cases, they are about effort, time, and uncertainty. How long will it take to move everything? Will anything break in the process? Will the new option be as reliable? These questions create hesitation, and hesitation keeps people from leaving. But companies don't rely on switching costs alone. They go further. They build ecosystems. An ecosystem is when multiple products and services are connected together in a way that reinforces each other. The more you use, the more valuable the system becomes, and the harder it is to replace. Think about platforms where your files, communication, payments, and tools are all integrated. Leaving one part of the system often means disrupting everything else. That's not a coincidence. It's designed to increase dependence. And the deeper you go into an ecosystem, the more locked in you become. But the strategy doesn't stop there. Another powerful tactic is habit formation. The best products are not just useful. They are used frequently, daily, weekly, constantly. The more often you use something, the more it becomes part of your routine. And once something becomes a habit, leaving it requires effort. Not just operational effort, but behavioral effort. You have to change how you do things, and humans resist that. This is why many services focus on engagement. Notifications, reminders, updates. They are all designed to keep you coming back. Not just because it's useful, but because consistency builds dependence. Then there's something more subtle. Data gravity. As you use a service, your data accumulates. Files, messages, history, preferences. It all builds up over time. And that data becomes valuable. But here's the problem. Moving that data is often difficult. Export options may be limited. Formats may not transfer cleanly. Some data might not be transferable at all. So even if a better option exists, leaving means potentially losing something important. And most people won't take that risk. So they stay. There's also a psychological layer to all of this. Once people invest time and effort into something, they develop a sense of attachment. Even if a better option exists, switching feels like starting over. And starting over is uncomfortable. This is sometimes called the sunk cost effect. You've already invested so much, so you keep going, even if it's not ideal. Businesses understand this, and they design experiences that encourage long-term investment. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. But here's where it gets interesting. Making it hard to leave is not always about blocking the exit. In many cases, it's about making the alternative feel worse. If the current product is reliable, familiar, and integrated into your life, any alternative has to overcome all of that. It's not enough to be better. It has to be significantly better to justify the switch, and that's a high bar. This is why many companies don't just compete on features. They compete on retention. They focus on keeping you inside the system. Because once you're in, the system does most of the work. But this strategy has a limit. If a product becomes too restrictive, too expensive, or too frustrating, customers will eventually leave, no matter how difficult it is. So companies have to balance two things. They need to create enough value to keep you satisfied, and enough friction to make leaving inconvenient. Too much friction without value leads to frustration. Too little friction makes it easy to switch. The strongest businesses find the balance. They make their products useful, integrated, and habit-forming, so that leaving feels unnecessary rather than impossible. And that's the real strategy. Because the goal is not to trap customers, the goal is to make them stay. Not because they can't leave, but because leaving feels like losing something valuable. And as more businesses adopt subscription models, ecosystems, and data-driven products, this strategy is becoming more common. It's subtle, often invisible, but once you start noticing it, you see it everywhere. In the apps you use, in the platforms you rely on, in the services you pay for every month. The hidden strategy is not about stopping you from leaving. It's about making sure you never really want to.